Well, my name's Nate Roberts, and I'm running for the State House of Representatives here in District 29, which is Pocatello, Idaho proper. And my background is I'm an electrician. I'm been in the union, the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers I started in 1991. So that gives you an idea. I've got a deep union background. And even though Idaho is a right to work state, there's a long, deep union history here in Idaho. And part of the reason why I chose to run was because I didn't feel that working people's issues and voices were being heard in the Capitol building.
Hmm.
And so I put my name in and won my first election. So I'm now running for reelection.
Cool. So re-election, that means that you've served some time doing the legislative stuff and you've built up a background doing that. You have knowledge of how it works. So if you could share with the voters, let's just assume that the portion of people listening to this next segment are people who don't know about you. There may be fresh voters or weren't politically inclined, but they stumble onto this. What are some of your accomplishments or things that you've worked on in the legislature in the last term?
Well, I was fortunate to be guided onto the Health and Welfare Committee in the House of Representatives there, and my caucus leadership was very demanding that I join that committee, and I was very happy that I did because that was one of the places that I found that I could make a large contribution to the success of our state. One of the things has been protecting our Medicaid expansion, which the voters approved of by over two-thirds. That was 2018. And so it was a voter initiative. And so that's one of the things that I've been able to do, along with just in general protecting our state from some of the larger issues that we see that are being brought up by some of the more radical fringes in our state. And so I haven't. I had one successful bill that I've sent across, and that was removing some dead language from our right to work laws. And as a union guy, it was very good to see, some portion of right to work being removed, even though it was dead language and adjudicated in the courts. But
Mm-hmm.
this state is still focusing on some of that. I know that Mountain States Policy Center here, which is an active PAC group, um, they've been pushing a right to work addition to our Constitution so that it makes it even harder yet to repeal it.
Mm.
But I think that would be a hard fight for them too. I serve on agricultural committee and on the commerce and human resources committees, and so I've been able to make some differences there. We protected unemployment benefits in our state, where a Florida outfit came into the state and wanted to basically cut the benefits in half. And, they called it a rapid reemployment program, where our Department of Labor at the state says unemployment is not the issue. That people are not, staying on unemployment just to avoid work. So they, we were able to stop most of that. We did make some changes. They increased, for example, July 1st, work searches required to receive unemployment benefits will be increased by 120%. So you go from having two searches per week to five searches per week, and that can make it difficult for some individuals. But we have 2.7% unemployment right now in the state of Idaho.
Pretty
So
good.
yeah, we're growing state, and our economy is doing very well because it's a growing
Mm-hmm.
state. Where there's some concern to what happens once the growth stops. That we've done some things recently. 2020, I got to think it through here. They had a special session in 2022, and in that session they put $400 million towards education. And then they also instituted a flat tax where they lowered the tax rate from the upper tax rate was about 6.8%, and now it's 5.8% across the board for anybody that has an
Mm-hmm.
income, whether that be a business or a working person. And so we're going to see how that works out, because with the growth that we've seen, of course, that's increasing the tax base. And so we've seen a number of times where the governor and the legislature will come out and say, hey, we've got this wonderful surplus. And when in fact a lot of that surplus was federal money coming in from
Hmm.
COVID. And of course, the surplus of growth moving in. And so not being able to account for that revenue in prediction. They've been using that as a method to lower taxes, saying that we don't need that. So
Interesting.
that's just some of the things that I've been working on.
Hmm.
These are the issues that honestly are important to working people. Property taxes has been a real issue in our state because the growth, of course, is creating value in housing to go up. So, I've gained recently in my house almost $60,000 in value, which means that I'm paying more in property taxes. So, and a lot of people are, under the impression that that's, an artificial inflation of the property tax issue. Um, yeah, there's a lot of things that we're working on that involve working people, but unfortunately, our legislature likes to focus on more the cultural issues. Like you may have seen on the social media that we had a bill run about unintended cannibalism this year that actually passed because it was relatively harmless when it comes to it. But it gives you an idea of some of the focus that we have. We're not really focused on the real issues. We're focused on some of the other issues that don't really exist. But hey, it's a possibility. So I guess we'll vote for that bill.
Hmm. Yeah, like I want to touch back to the the financial thing real quick, which is the surplus. And I think it's important for voters to understand the context, even for myself as well as we go into the conversation, want to have the proper information and data to make these subsequent questions. So I'm assuming, based on what I'm hearing from you, that it's not actually a surplus. It's just miscounted because they weren't factoring in the federal funds from COVID and other forms. So they made a permanent decision to make the flat tax based on a temporary influx of funds from nuanced situations. Am I understand that correctly?
Well, it's the old adage, right? You never don't miss an opportunity,
Sure.
to use something in your
Mm-hmm.
benefit. And I think that's what's happened is they saw this surplus as an opportunity to say, hey, we can cut taxes because this surplus makes it obvious that we're bringing too much in. But my first campaign, I talked about how the state of Idaho was not paying its bills. And, as a working guy, if you're not paying your bills, your bank account looks great. Looks like you've got a surplus. But eventually somebody's going to come
Mm-hmm.
and want their money for the bills that you owe. And so the state of Idaho has gone many years. As a matter of fact, 2005, there was a lawsuit that was heard by the Idaho Supreme Court regarding the state being responsible for our school system in full. And so our state constitution clearly states that the legislature is responsible for a public school system. But they had not been funding that school system to the point where we had almost $1 billion in backlog of school facility maintenance. And so in, I want to say April of 2023, one of our high school gyms here in town burnt down because, in essence, there was an electrical fault
Mm-hmm.
and the fire alarm system had been set to a trouble mode because they were waiting for a part to replace in the fire alarm system. So the fire alarm did not go off. It did not call first responders. What system did work to notify that there was a problem was there was an alert system on the cafeteria freezer that alerted one of the cafeteria workers that the temperature in the freezer was too high. So the cafeteria worker showed up to find out why and found that the building was on fire
Wow.
and called the fire department. Yeah. So, that's one of the things. That's like I said, the state has not been paying its bills. We're not taking care of the issues that we really need to take care of, the issues that are important to working people. And so, that's that by not paying their bills, they've kind of inflated their bank accounts to make it look like they've got a surplus. So since then, we've put significant amount of money towards our school facilities. That does come with some mandates that actually makes it difficult for the schools to spend some of that money. And so, that's it's one of the issues that we're still working with. I'm a Democrat in the House, and we're a super minority. There's 11 of us Democrats and 59 of the
Mm-hmm.
Republicans. So they don't really need our votes to get some of their bills across, but we've been able to. We have a very strong caucus. It's amazing the people that I work with in the building on both sides.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have very good relationships on both sides of the aisle,
Mm-hmm.
but my caucus I feel is definitely a lot stronger. Um, but yeah, so that it's one of the things that we're still working on is making sure that the state's paying its bills accordingly, rather than just the typical austerity movement that we've seen since the 1980s with, that's trickle down economics theory, where our state is clearly living in trickle down
Mm-hmm.
economics.